The steeper path, the climb I choose, leaving comfort, nothing to lose. Through shadow trails and rocky ground, my purpose clear, my meaning found. Each step I take brings strength anew. Challenges faced, resilience grew. A journey tough, but richly sweet, where soul and life's alignment meet. At peaks ahead, the vision clear, my greatest goals becoming near. The steeper path, though hard and slow, is where my truest self will grow. The steeper path.
Tell me about you know what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were a kid.
Okay, so my first ever career or vocation thing that I was really wanting to do, there was two when I was a kid. I wanted to be a florist. I just love flowers. I'm looking at now in my bedroom. I always have a bouquet of flowers that I buy myself. And I didn't always do that, actually, as part of my self-love journey, which maybe I'll talk about later. But yeah, I wanted to be a florist. And then I also wanted to be a vet. I loved animals. I wanted to help animals, I guess, and make them better and care for them. So yeah, it was those sort of the two things when I was really little. And then as time progressed and I got into my teens, I started to be attracted to the law. And I did my work experience at a solicitor's, lawyer's office, as you could say in the States, but solicitors here. And I think that was because I'm a natural problem solver. So I liked the law because it was about people and it was about solving problems. But I didn't go down either of any of those routes in the end. So then I became interested in business, but I didn't really know what business was. I knew it from the sense of there's a business on the high street, there's a retailer, but I didn't know what a career in business would entail. Because there was no careers advice at the school that I went to, comprehensive school in the north of England. There was nothing.
No guidance, no
absolutely
career counseling.
No, nothing. Yeah. I remember going in actually, and I said, she said, well, what do you like? And I said, well, I like to work with people, and I think I want a career in business. So she went, oh, you should do human resources. And no, I know, because I've had a big career in business. That's not probably the career you should have if you like people, depending on what.
Absolutely not.
Because you're actually not doing nice things a lot of the time to people. But yeah, there wasn't anything really. So what happened, I was relatively good at school. I could have done a lot better in my academic career. But about 15 years old, I discovered house music and clubbing and all of that stuff. So that became my religion in a way. It was like a schooling in where I developed myself. I had relationships, I grew friendships, I learned about culture and life and conflict. And that was like a whole university, the house scene, music, and growing up in where I was in the world, and just how prolific it was, and just how developing it was really. But it impacted my grades. But I did well. I got to university, but it was really through a year out that I took before I went to university, where I worked full time for a water company. And in that water company, I discovered marketing and communications and that side of business. So I was like, oh, this really interests me. This kind of awakened something in me, the creativity and influencing people and putting a message out and having that make an impact. positively on someone's life, basically. So that was really the start of it. So I went off and did a communications degree in public relations, and I worked, from leaving university, first of all in the public sector, and then I worked 14, 15 years in the private sector. So yeah, that was the start of it.
So you worked in PR?
Well, I did. And I did for a short time. So
Okay.
my first job was, I should backtrack a bit of this because this is kind of comes into the whole entrepreneurial thing. I've always been a massive worker. So I had 5-6 paper rounds when I was 11 years old. I had endless part-time jobs. I was like, where I'm from, we're called grafters, like you graft. So it's, a kind of a word for work, but it means a bit more. It's like a bit of a hustler.
Hustler, grinding
grafter.
Hustling and...
Yeah. But I had a very strong desire and drive to be better, progress and leave my hometown, which I did, and went to London the minute I could, basically. But yeah, so I'd always worked. And then I was put on the path, like we all are, that it was like you get a degree and then you go get a job. And I was lucky. It was like 1997, 2000 I started my degree, 2001 I finished. And the market was just so buoyant in 2001. So I had so many job offers leaving university that I got to really pick and choose at that point. So I went to work for the police service as a civilian. I worked in
for the London Metropolitan Police.
No, for Surrey. So an county just
in
the home counties outside of London.
Yeah,
and it was a really interesting job. Actually, I learned a lot because I had quite a lot of responsibility. To say I was straight out of university, and culturally it interested me because it was quite hard to obviously get things done.
Yeah.
And I'd spent a year in industry at Marks and Spencer on the third year of my degree. So I'd worked at their head office in London. And that was, I think, the worst year of their financial history. So my thesis and my dissertation was on communication and culture in times of significant change. So I was very interested about what made people tick, what was going to ignite change, how you would use communication to kind of move things through and influence and shift. So I was fascinated by that, in psychology, but also sociology was my passion subject at school. Kind of what moves people, what's going on in sort of the collective and the tribe, and corporate culture being this kind of this sort of organism of that.
Yeah.
So I worked there for a year. I didn't fit in to that organisation. It was in the home counties. Everybody had horses, and I was just walking in, going, "Hiya, you're right." I didn't really fit in, but it was interesting and it was significant because while I was there, I was living in a small sort of town in Surrey called Walton-on-Thames. It's a town on the Thames. And that year, a young girl who was 13 years old, it's one of the biggest cases in the UK in terms of profile. She's called Millie Dowler. And she tragically was kidnapped and was murdered. And that's the town I lived in. And that police force was, running that case. So I was taken into the press office. So I was getting a lot of exposure to very big communication challenges. So it shaped a lot. And then I took a job offer, an opportunity to go for an interview at O2, which was a mobile communications company that had just emerged from British Telecom. And my friend was recruiting for it at the agency she was working at. And so I went for that job I think I was just turned 23, 24. And that was in internal communications. And so I started off at O2, which was then formed a 14-year career at O2, doing internal comms. Then I did consumer PR. And then I did corporate social responsibility, which was my passion job for 9-10 years, which was incredible.
Now, tell me about that. What was different about it from the other jobs that made it such a passion project?
It was my boss at the time. I always mention him when I tell this story because it was one of those things, like when you think about certain moments in your life where you've had like a crossroads decision or an opportunity. And I'm obsessed with like moments of grace, where somebody sees something in you or identifies something and they're a mirror to you and they choose in that moment to shine it, usually through the power of speech, saying something to you, and it ignites something in the person in front of you that can really set them off on another path. And obviously we're talking about paths, aren't we, on this podcast? So yes, I'm going to keep saying it because it's just coming back to it. But it was my boss at the time, and I was working in consumer PR. I was the consumer PR manager for O2. It was the heyday of mobile. It wasn't even at that point the Apple iPhone hadn't launched. This was just pre that. So it was mobile technology was the cool thing, right?
It was. Yeah.
Yeah. So we had so much cash, like, to do cool stuff. And I was doing, all of that stuff. So Arsenal sponsorship, England rugby, all of the tech, fashion. They had a huge music portfolio, the venues that we were sponsoring. Then obviously a couple of years later, the O2 came into the mix.
Yeah.
The biggest music.
The arena.
Biggest music venue in the world in terms of revenue. And so I was like having this work hard, play hard type of life, like on the cusp of all of this, out with journalists 6 times a week. I was a young woman in my 20s. And then he came to me and he said, I want you to do this job in corporate responsibility. I was like, you want me to do what? I was like, what? You want me to do what? But he knew from speaking to me and from our conversations, in the restaurant and at the coffee place or whatever, that I had this social justice drive within me. And it had really come from growing up and, being raised by my dad and my mum, but my dad in particular, very much an activist. So he'd always fought for things, my dad, and still does. He still writes letters and he still campaigns in his own way in his late 70s now. But, growing up, I was campaigning, I was on the streets with placards and
protesting and
fighting really for social justice. For maybe the people who don't have a voice naturally or can't use it because of circumstance. And so he knew I was socially activated in my ethics, in who I was, my values. And he could see, I think, that I would do really well in this role. And he was absolutely right, because when we started, this is probably 2006, I joined that role. And the words of social responsibility, corporate responsibility, sustainability, they were relatively new. So there wasn't really that much happening. And we grew and we did some amazing things. So there was 2 of us in that team, and we grew to 12 and became like the number 1 brand and leader in that space in the UK. And I was always leading on the social impact. The first thing that I did, this was actually when I was in internal comms, but it looped back in to Millie Dowler. Her family ended up working with us, and I got very close to the family because on the back of what had happened, they wanted to do something positive, like a lot of families do after such a tragic event, and to heal the grief and to sort of leave something that could be more positive from something so cruel. And we did this campaign with them called Teaching Mum to Text, because kids were starting to have phones, but nobody knew the education.
The T9 keyboard and
they just didn't know how to stay in touch. So it was like a way to keep safe. And yeah, I just was like a Duracell bunny, really. I just get an idea or get a brief, and then I just run with it, like quite a bit of psycho energy really at times. Like I just go and go. So I ended up going all around the country. I had this bus, and we were like training people in all these shopping centres, and it was all over the media. And it was always like about, like all the touch points for me, like how you could get more people involved, but then get the message out to get more impact and to help shift things in the public space. So that was where I started to cut my teeth with it. And then they would give me, when I actually got that job, I'd get blank sheets of paper. So it was great in the sense, even though I was working for a corporate business, and there was a lot of things later on that ground me down. But in this period, I was given freedom to say, look, there's a blank sheet of paper. This is the kind of brief that we want to do. Go and do it. So I created 2 programs from scratch. My first one was called It's Your Community. And it was a mechanism to align with our brand values, which were like, see what you can do. So that was the slogan of the brand. But then it was bold, open, clear, and trusted with the brand values. And it was a mechanism to ignite community action and spirit for people to just go and create change in their community. And because we were a brand, we didn't have to adhere to like charity regulation or bureaucracy. We could just trust people, which was my first encounter with the psychology of trust, and say, look, here's some money. It was always up to £1,000. So you could kind of take the risk if some of it wasn't spent correctly, it'd be all right, but go and do it. And so that one was amazing. I loved that one. And we gave out like 1.2 million in 2 years in these grants, up to 1,000.
Wow.
But what was interesting about it, because I did many offshoots of it, so I had all of the activity around the call centres, which was very beautiful for me to go back up north, because that's where all the call centres are in the UK. They have them up north because of cost, but also something to do with accent. People trust people with northern accent and also Scottish accents. So there you go.
Interesting.
But also there is a little bit of, it's like the new coal mining industry, it's like everybody's in the call centre and, so I'd go up to the north of England where I was from and born, and I could like create these programs with these amazing heart-led people that were working in those businesses. So we had, it's your Leeds, it's your Bury, it's your Glasgow. And so they could then really invest what they wanted to do in their community and champion all of these projects that they were passionate about. And it raised morale, it raised performance, it gained more retention, like attraction. And so we were awarded like the Sunday Times Best Place to Work for that category, for sustainability, social responsibility. Yeah. So there was many facets to it, but the interesting thing about it as well was that was like 10,000 applications we got in through It's Your Community. And so it was a social research tool. So I could then look at what was happening across the UK and what the real issues were in communities. And that was really the basis for the big one that I did, the really big one, which was called Think Big. And Think Big came out of It's Your Community, but it was purely focused on young people. And it was the same mechanic, a lot of them, but a lot deeper. So again, pockets of cash, absolute kind of belief and enablement about saying to someone, I believe in you, you've got an idea, now go make it happen. And here's the tools, here's the platform, here's the support and mentorship that you're going to need to make that happen. But the key thing was, I believe in you. And
power of that statement.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
I believe in you. And that one was just like my life's work, really, up until this one that I'm going to talk about in a bit. But that one was everything. Yeah, again, I remember sat in where I was living with my now ex-boyfriend at the time, and I had all of these big sheets of paper, like huge A1, A2 sheets of paper, and I'd sellotape them all together.
Yeah.
And I basically just sat there like drawing it.
Pouring it out. Yeah.
I wish I'd have got a video of a picture of me doing it, because I remember it so vividly. It was all on this like wooden floor, and I was like going, they're going to come in and then they're going to do this, and you know, it was, yeah, a bit like Goodwill Hunting, but not in advanced maths.
Yeah.
And yeah, I remember it like sat there the day we launched it, and you know, you've got a website, and I had all these charity partners because they were bringing in young people as well. And you just sat there waiting for your first applicant, like going, oh God,
is anybody going to come?
They're not coming.
Yeah.
And God, it just rolled, and it rolled and rolled. So we did thousands, not just in the UK. It then rolled out into Europe, 6 countries in Europe. And then I was getting promoted, and then I was involved in it and running it globally. So we took it then with the Telefonica Foundation out into Latin America as well. So
what are some of the things that came out of it that were exciting to you, or that you got, you know, sort of really into?
It was really, for me, it was about the possibility of what could happen to somebody. Yeah. And it enabled me to go to kind of do things that I was passionate about, from a bit of what could have been me in a different life if I'd followed a different path and gone down more of the academic route of life. So I was obsessed. I love sociology. I found it so easy to write about life and people. It was a subject that I could just sit and just go. But the thing with It's Your Community, the previous one, is I couldn't measure the impact of it. I could say, oh, we've given out this much money and there's been these many people that have applied for, you know, it was metric, it was quantitative, right. But I was like, well, what's the difference? And so when I built the second one, I put in social impact measurement in from the start, and I went to find a professor of sociology. And to be honest with you, it's quite selfish as well, because I wanted to just sit and talk to somebody about sociology all the time. I needed to do it, but I was like, well, where would I want to go? And the guy that I hired is amazing, Dr. Tony Chapman. And he was at Sunderland, but then he moved to Durham. So he became the social science professor at Durham. So I used to go up on the train and just sit in his office in Durham.
Talking about sociology.
But that was the thing. So what we were really uncovering through it and through the social science of it, that it was about building resilience. And the resilience is a really hard thing to measure. And it's something that the world's talked about a lot post-pandemic, right? You know, how resilient are people, how resilient are systems, how resilient is the structures in which we operate, right? But this with young people, I think about it still when I read, you know, if you're reading about what's going on with young people and some of the challenges they're facing, children, young people of this generation, is that it was really about giving people risk, opportunity.
Yes.
So saying, here's a parameter that you can go in, like, it's your idea, take the cash, go make it happen, and take some risk.
Yeah.
And that was there was a lot of gold in it, but that was a really crucial golden nugget. And I had to fight very hard for that to happen, because all of the charities that were kind of partners in the program, they wanted to safeguard the cash.
Of course.
They wanted the cash to go through them and not be in the young person's hand, but it's your community, it always went into their hands. And so I'd learned through that program how important and powerful the psychology of trust is, because I thought everyone's going to just ask for £1,000 because that's the maximum they can get. Mm-hmm. And people would come in and go, I want £398.50, please. And they break it down.
So precise.
And sometimes they'd come back and say, I asked for 1,000, but I actually only needed 880. So can I send you £120 back, please?
Wow. How often does that happen in the world?
But it's if I say to you, I trust you.
Right.
What are you going to do? You're going to show trust, right? If I say I believe in you.
You're going to behave in a trustworthy way and reciprocate.
Yeah. And so I went head to head. Like, there's a lot of big UK charities that we were thinking of working with. And I was like, no, it's not going to happen that way. We're going to give the money directly into their hands. Because when you do that, especially to a young person who's not come from a scenario of having a lot of money in their life, it unlocks something so fundamentally important about worth. And when you've got like the interlock of I'm worthy, I believe in myself, I've got some support around me, you go. And those kids went, they went.
I bet.
And we grew and grew. So we layered it. I was taking them then to like events globally where they were then networking with entrepreneurs and leaders on a global scale. They were starting social enterprises. They were starting charities. They were starting businesses. So it followed them through. But it started with that thing of, I believe in you and take some risk with this.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing. I can only imagine how difficult that sell was inside of a corporation.
Yeah.
To be able to say, we're going to believe in kids and trust them and not have a clear ROI metric that we can come back to report on at the end of the day. Because that's not something they're really comfortable with, is qualitative metrics.
Yeah. It was interesting. Yeah. There was challenge. Definitely. But what we benefited from a lot was the CEO of the organization was totally behind it. And I actually was at the same 50th birthday party with him a few weeks ago. I hadn't seen him for years. And he's just an amazing human being, but he really got it. And he was a finance director by trade. I think he'd had a moment. I remember this story, but he was down at HSBC, I think, or an event, and I think it was someone in that organisation was talking about the financial impact and benefits of sustainability. And there was a moment, I think, where he just was like, you just get a few penny drop moments, and he really supported us and backed it, because it became such an intrinsic part of the brand.
Yeah.
And it still is now. Like O2 exists, it's been bought by Virgin, but they're doing some incredible things in that space still. And then when we were bought by Telefonica, the COO who came in and then he ran Europe and then he was global CEO, he had such a big passion around social purpose. So I think when you have a leader that's really behind you, obviously it's so much easier within a corporate organization. You're going to get pushed back within different functions and not everyone's going to get it, and you've got to keep selling it and to keep doing the business case and keep doing it. But that leadership really did unlock a lot of things, and he became very well known because, well, she's one of my good friends. She's still there. She's the corporate affairs, corporate communications director. They did something very clever with campaigning. He became a spokesperson on digital skills with young people, and the fact that we were in an absolute deficit of what the education system was gearing young people up, gearing them up to come out of school and further education, and what the actual workplace needed. And there was this huge digital skills shortage. So what we were doing with Think Big was, it didn't start off as a digital skills program. It was more of a social impact and social entrepreneurship program. But then we put in digital skills so they could extend the reach of all of those ideas through the power of the web, basically, and being able to reach much more people and have greater impact and scale.
So how long did you do this for?
God, to 2016.
10 years? What a cool job.
Yeah.
And you just stumbled into it. It feels very aligned to who you are as I know you, in that I can see the thread running through this work, even going back to the story you told me about what you wanted to be when you grew up. Just there's a line of problem solving and creativity and compassion and connection and humanity. Even though you wanted to be a vet when you were a girl, I imagine you wanted to be a vet because there's care and compassion for animals in that, right?
Yeah.
And I see that thread continue, and it's so cool to see that you were lucky enough to find somebody who saw this in you and said, this is the right thing for this person to do.
Yeah.
Come over here and do this because we see something in you. Speaking of trust, and speaking of people betting on you.
Yeah.
You're very lucky to have somebody who bet on you that way, because not everybody gets this type of an experience in their corporate careers.
No. And it wasn't all roses. When I speak about
I'm
it,
sure.
when I speak about it in nostalgia and reflection, I only the good things come to my mind. And I think that's because of what happened to me in 2014 with my brain injury, my brain surgery.
Tell me about that.
And the way that I was looked after by that business through such a difficult and challenging time of my life. But also, and I really reflect on this because I've done a lot of kind of internal work in the last 11 years of my life, more really, but really from my brain surgery and my life threatening in my brain, is that the culture was very much on. They used to call the culture can do, like the can do attitude, right? You never have these slogans, don't you, in the corporate space, right? So it was more like, yeah, you can do it, you can. And I think because at that time, my metrics were all about performing to kind of to get on. And I was very much in masculine energy. So it was like...
You were a doer.
An absolute doer.
Just a force of nature that goes.
Yeah. And so I had no off switch. And I remember things being talked about then, like work-life balance, but they were these sort of alien concepts, sometimes you get like a little leaflet from HR about, but they had no resonance within the organization or the culture.
Right.
Because for years, I would go to sleep with my BlackBerry on one side of me and my iPhone after 2007, because we had the exclusive deal for 2 years in the UK. I'm on my bed now, but I would literally go to bed with them next to me on the pillow. My boss, everybody worked through their holidays. That was normal. So you would get emails constantly from your boss while they were on holiday. So there was the culture was just we're all in it.
Always on.
Always on. But I think because I didn't have an internal metric of I'm worthy or worth not being on, like I was so like in this thing that I've got to prove myself. I've got to be enough.
Yes.
And I've got to get that salary increase because that's going to show me enough. Or if I get the promotion, that'll be enough. And it wasn't, it never was. And so I used to basically go through these cycles of boom and bust, which was actually burnout.
Right. So
I would burn out because eventually my body would stop.
Yeah.
And that would happen for me in the form of depression. I was very much, I've got it all together. I was running these, different teams from within the organisation, the charities, like 30, 40 people. So I was like in charge of a lot of responsibility, shut the door when I got home. And I was just, there was nothing. I wasn't coming home to anything.
Nothing left.
Yeah, there was nothing left really. Yeah, I just didn't love myself really at all. And it was all about giving to everyone else.
Yeah. I've seen this pattern play out with so many women that I have worked with and have worked alongside of or in my life. And not just women, people of color, gay people who feel unworthy in the majority often feel like they have to become super doers and outwork, outdeliver, outperform to be worthy. And really in the process end up undervaluing what they bring to the table beyond the doing, and then get typecast into this role of the super doer. And then they get passed over at promotion time because someone is more strategic coming up behind them. And it's usually, somebody who wasn't doing all the doing. It was somebody who was doing all the observation and the politicking and the networking and the power games. And it all feels very, very fair. But that doer trap and the burnout that comes with it is so detrimental. You're the first person I've spoken to in a long time who've self-identified that this was something that impacted them negatively.
Yeah. And
because most people are in it, they can't see it.
Yeah. You've literally, you've described what happened to me. I was very much stepped over, really. And I remember because it was just like, I was just literally making lots of other people look really good.
Yep.
Because the work was getting so much notoriety and, it was being talked about at party conferences. We were in 10 Downing Street. It was a big thing.
Yeah.
And it's not that those people didn't do anything, but it was me I was the heart and soul of it.
Yes. And
I remember there was a promotion. There was a promotion, and I just felt it should have been my job. And I remember this external candidate came in, who then actually became the best boss I ever had, by the way.
Lucky.
But I remember looking in the door and seeing her PowerPoints, and I just had this sinking feeling. I was like, "That's it," because she's just so strategic, and I can't do those PowerPoints. I can do it. Like, give me the whole thing and I'll run it. But I don't know how to do that.
You've never had the time to learn how to do that or to work at that altitude.
No.
Because you were so busy doing.
Yeah, so I used to burn out, but then they gave me the promotion. Then I got really depressed because I wasn't doing.
You weren't doing anymore.
I wasn't near anything that mattered. I was just dealing with contracts and legal and trying to get the German team to work with the Spanish, which was like a whole thing in itself because never the twain shall meet.
Culture clash.
Yeah. But, when I had brain surgery, so
tell me about what happened.
Goes on to the next thing of then leaving the whole corporate career. So this was January 2014, and I'd been so depressed in 2013 because I got this promotion. I was working at this group level, and I had no purpose. There was no meaning to it anymore. And I remember that I went to my doctor and said, I'm really depressed, and they referred me to to get counselling or mental help. And you have to fill out this questionnaire. And I filled it out honestly. It's the D-something-5 questionnaire. And they said to me, they looked at it and said, you're not depressed enough on the results of this, so we can't help you here. And I just cried all the way home. I was like, oh my
depressed
God.
enough. I wonder what depressed enough looks like.
I don't know. I do remember that. I do. It's a very vivid memory. But I kind of started to help myself through different ways. And I was feeling a lot better. And I remember it was January 2014, New Year's Eve. And I just felt the best I had in quite a long time. And my friend, who's my now business partner, who lives in Brazil, she'd sent me a photograph on Christmas Day of 2013 of the costume that I was going to wear in the Rio Carnival. She lives there. She dances Samba. She'd been parading in the Rio Carnival for a few years, as well as running a property real estate agency, which was her business. Mm-hmm. And she'd sent me that photo. And it was a dream of mine to go and be in the carnival. Don't know where it'd come from, but I'd wanted to do it. And when I was working at O2, because their whole brand thing was bubbles and oxygen, there was this event once you had to put your dream into a bubble. And I wrote, I want to be on a float in the Rio Carnival, and put it into this bubble. And then I met Samantha, and then she could make it happen. So she'd sent me my costume. And so I was absolutely ecstatic, running around my mum's house on Christmas Day going, oh my God, it's gorgeous, gold feathers and everything and whatnot. And so I was training super hard for that moment. Like I wanted to have the Brazilian butt. Not that I've got a Brazilian, but, trying.
You wanted to look your best and look the part.
Exactly. Yeah. And so then I, just out of really nowhere, I've been training a lot. So I thought it was muscle strain because I've been doing a lot of gym, running 11 miles and God knows what. And that was a Wednesday. I think it was like the 14th, something of January, maybe, something like that. And by the Friday, I was in the A&E, accident and emergency, because it had gone so bad down predominantly one side of my body. And then they CT scanned me on the Saturday, found a massive growth up in my prefrontal cortex.
Wow.
And by Monday, I'd had emergency brain surgery. So it was from symptoms starting on a Wednesday. By Monday, I'd had emergency brain surgery.
Wow.
And all I could think about, it wasn't even a thinking, it was a sense, it was a soul sense. I was like, this is it. This is where I can get to start again. And I was really happy. Even though it was absolute, I went through God knows what. I won't go into all of this because we don't have time in this podcast, but I went through so much, like in hospital, and it was absolutely intense.
Yeah.
But I knew it was meant to happen for me. And I knew that was my moment to redesign and rebirth myself and to come back to really who I truly was. And when you suffer, but when you encounter that closeness to your soul's essence, which can come in many ways. It can come through heartbreak, it can come through grief, it can come through illness. Mine was a very close portal, I guess, to my actual life and my mortality and near-death experience. You don't feel anything else but your true essence, and that is love. Nothing else exists. And so it was a gift, this unbelievable gift, really. And it led me to doing lots of things. First of all, it manifested my greatest dream in my life was to have a little girl. And she came through this magical, synchronized process of just attraction and miracle creation, leading my life through my heart, through the brain and the inadequacy and fear, basically, that I was leading it before through. And so she came to pass, and then I left my job. I manifested all of that. Like, my payout was £300 different to what I'd written and manifested.
Wow.
So, yeah, and then creating a business in Brazil, which was the inspiration, was that moment with other things. So,
as somebody who's been through one of these scary, not the same, but I had a stroke in my brainstem in 2020. And that for me also had the same sort of catalyst effect of just one, shocking you into consciousness, shocking you into presence, and realizing, this is not a rehearsal. This is not a game. This is it. We get one chance. And if we're not making the most of it, if we're on the wrong path, we don't have many do-overs. And then coming back through that, in that state of shock, coming back to self, returning to self, I fully get it. I fully get the power and the awfulness and the joy that comes from these moments, and how it can transform if you're able to see it that way. I know some people don't, and not everybody gets out the other side like we did. But when you do get out the other side, it's almost like a responsibility to make the most of it.
Yeah.
So I love that. Tell me about the fascination with Carnival. I mean, I've never been. I don't know anything about it. I mean, I've seen. What's the story behind it? Is it uniquely Brazilian? Is it, what happens there?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really layered in terms of the history of it. So it's really deep, actually, within Brazilian culture, the art of Samba. And it originates in Bahia, which is a bit of a northern area to the north of Rio de Janeiro state. Because Brazil's absolutely huge. People
Massive.
don't understand the vastness of it. So that you can fit Europe as a continent 3 times into Brazil as a country. Yeah. It's absolutely huge. So it comes from Bahia, and I've been learning a lot about this in the last few years of going out there and running the business. Because initially it was like, well, it's not a problem, right? But, I'm a problem solver. So it's, this is a great gateway and this is a great opportunity. How do we get people to come and do this? And, the fact that my business partner's got this amazing access to these schools through her own life story, which is incredible in itself. But we weren't really understanding at that point when we launched the business back in 2018 that it was a portal. We didn't know. I mean, I said that to my business partner, she'd laugh. She'd go, "What's a portal?" She's just so not into any of this. She's just not. But
too woo-woo.
No, nothing like that.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
She knows what happens to people. We see it. We experience it. And because it's a spiritual thing, right? So the essence of it, the ancestry of it, the story of it, the history. Every time I speak about it, I get goosebumps all over my entire body. So I know I'm speaking something that's deeply meaningful.
Yeah.
Because it just doesn't resonate there. It ripples to anybody that wants to be open to this truth. And first of all, it's a matriarchal custom. So it was created by women.
Wow.
And it was suppressed through obviously the Afro-Brazilian slave trade, and it was criminalized. So you weren't allowed to dance Samba. Like things like capoeira are obviously like a martial art that they hid as a resistance. And so the actual woman who made Samba become legal, she was a healer. I guess she'd be kind of called like a witch in Western society at that, in those periods. And there was a man of influence when he was in the government, and he had this condition that was basically killing him. And she was known that she could heal people. She was a healer. And so he went to her and he said, I need help. And she said, I will help you, but I've got 2 conditions. One, that you make Samba, like we can dance Samba, you make it legal. And secondly, I want my husband to be able to have a job, because at that point, Black people weren't allowed to work.
Yeah. And
so she healed him, and that started off basically Samba in Rio de Janeiro, in a community called Little Africa. So we take our clients, and that's where really all of the slave trade was, it was the origins of it and all of that. So it's very deep. And then Carnival itself is linked to the Catholic calendar. It happens 40 days as a celebration before then you go into a period of abstinence, Lent. And then you celebrate Easter. So it moves. And it's a point of obviously incredible coming together of humanity, of celebration. But in more recent times, so when I first went out there 10 years ago, the parades were a bit more like whimsical, I would say, as a word. The themes were like, let's talk about Switzerland. So you'd have one float about time, one float about chocolate, one float about cheese, one float about milk. And now they're very much really speaking the truths of the stories that have never been told. So it's a reclamation really about humanity, what we really are, and the voices within that of the people that haven't been able to be heard or spoken about before. And within that, a lot of female and feminine voice. Again, because it hasn't been told by women before. And women have become a lot more influential and powerful within Samba and within Carnival. So from appointing the first creative directors as women of the Samba schools to having them on the governing body. So they're really becoming a lot more influential and powerful in how those stories are being told and what it really means. Yes, it looks amazing. And it's a beautiful thing, and it's a theatrical show like you'll never see in your life. But there's such deep emotion and responsibility and pride, culture, like this is who we are. So these Samba schools are in favelas, they're in very poor communities that are rich in so many ways. And they're rich because they move and they're expressive and they enjoy and they're together and they have purpose and meaning behind that. When you go to the rehearsals every Saturday, they have 1 month off and then they start preparing for the next year.
Wow.
It never stops. This is a life. It's a lifeblood. And it's a rhythm, right? The music, the drums, the beat of it. That's what I was first taken with. I was like, it's such an beautiful language, Brazilian Portuguese. It's very hard to learn. It's very different from Portuguese in Europe.
Yeah.
And, when I first went there, I didn't understand anything 10 years ago, not a word. I felt they were speaking Romanian when I was listening to it. I was like, what is that? What is that?
It's very sing-songy and musical.
Musical. But I was like, I just didn't understand anything. But when the drums played and when you're in that frequency, it doesn't need translation. We all get it and we all move to it. And that's been such a powerful thing to observe within our clients who are coming from all different countries and backgrounds and life experience. But when they go there and they're in this magic, and I use that intentionally, they're moved. They can't not be moved.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, it's powerful.
How did you get from going yourself after your brain surgery to realizing that this is something you wanted to do for your work going forward? And tell me a bit about your work you're doing now, the company, because you've mentioned clients a few times, but I'd love to hear more about how this turned in from your own personal desire to dance in Carnival to now having a business partner and clients. What does that look like and why do you do it?
Yeah. So I should also add, because it's really important, because I am a person who does a lot of things, as we've uncovered in this conversation, that my brain surgery also really ignited this absolute obsession I have with the subconscious mind. And from my own path of healing, from the initial stages of reconnecting my mind and my body, and just knowing that there was so much more inside of me that I was never accessing. And when I was given the brief, the problem to solve, and I was sat there in these lucid states, I was able to just access deep memory, to visualize, because I wanted to reconnect my brain and my body so I could move my fingers again and move my toes and learn to walk. And so a sequence of events happened that led me to having a conversation when I was still in my full-time job, because I went back to my job for just over 2 years. And it was very good because I could have the security of the income while I was healing. For the first time in my life, not working as hard.
I bet you were forced to slow down.
I was forced to slow down. Yeah, I discovered hypnotherapy, and I was actually contemplating going to do a degree in neuroscience. I thought I was going to go back and really go back to the drawing board of my academic kind of career that I never had. But I discovered hypnotherapy, and I did a diploma in clinical hypnotherapy while I was working.
Cool.
And that was amazing, not with the intention to necessarily practice or to form a practice. It was more like I wanted to learn more about the brain and the neuroscience and the subconscious. But once I got into the work, I was like, this is incredible. I want to share this. What's the point of having knowledge unless you're giving it to somebody else? So I just started to do that on the side, really. And then when I knew anyway, I wasn't going to stay in the corporate job. I knew that before my brain surgery. It was the wake-up call had already happened. And I got to a point where I just was like, I just need to leave. And then I found out I was pregnant while I was in consultation. So
wow.
That propelled me even further. It didn't scare me. I was like, I'm going. I was a single mom. But her father ended up moving around the corner from us. So I've always co-parented and had a lot of support. But, on paper, it was a very risky thing, probably a lot of people wouldn't do. But I was like, this is the moment. And it was the Rio thing really happened because I had that moment of inspiration coming off that float, being in this frequency of joy. It was a year to the day that I'd got out of hospital that I went on the float.
Wow.
The next year, and it was on Valentine's Day, so it was like the day that I was reclaiming as self-love. I was on this huge self-love journey within myself, and I got off and I just grabbed Samantha and I said, look, you've got to start a business. I don't even know if those are the exact words, but you've got to show people how to do this. Like, everybody needs to experience this feeling. And it was just pure joy, gratitude, love of being alive, being held in this celebration, this culture of these people that were moving unapologetically with joy, with expression, with fluidity. And I was just alive, that feeling. I'm sorry, I know you can swear on this, but
it's okay.
Fucking alive. Like,
yeah,
I'm alive. And that nugget was planted. And then Samantha's story went mega in 2018 because she became the first non-Brazilian woman to be a muser for her school, and the British press picked up on it. And we love the underdog story, right? It's one of the greatest stories told of all time. So there was lots of people contacting her saying, how would I do it? How would I do it? And I'd obviously come out of the job, and I was kind of being a mum at that time. I was on mat leave. So we just decided to do that business together. It made absolute sense. And I grew it while having a very small baby, really, from the ground up. And then it merged into this movement that I'm now leading and created called Complete Confidence. And that's really from everything I've expressed and we've discussed together, this passion within me, this ability to kind of, and this gift to see people and want to help them basically live in their truest potential through belief, through maybe being a mirror or giving the tools, the platform, the support to go and do it. And that's what I was finding within my therapy work. So I've always loved sitting down one-on-one with somebody. But it was this golden thread of like, what's stopping you from making the change and what really ignites it. And so Complete Confidence was really born out of being immersed in this culture in Rio de Janeiro through the business and watching these women particularly and being in their presence, watching what happened to people when they were given this opportunity of deep immersive experience, and then how we sort out this basically that stops us.
Yep.
And how we come at this from what I'm badging and owning as the feminine led confidence. And what I mean by that is that in my own life, because this is my life story, right? It's no coincidence that I took out the entire masculine energy side of my body. I took out the entire right-hand side of my body. So the universe, God, if you want, has said, no, you're not going to do anymore. You're not.
You're not a doer.
You're not. And so that whole path for me was about really healing and coming into my feminine energy. And there has to be a balance. And this is something I'm working on now more, that I need more masculine actually back in, because it needs a container, right? But that holding that thought for a moment, we are schooled in this life to think confidence is a skill. You just got to keep doing the do, and eventually it'll land in.
It'll land, yeah.
And it'll compound.
Fake it till you make it.
Yeah. Pep talk, give yourself a pep talk, push on through. And of course it doesn't, because if we don't feel it, which comes from our bodies, and embodiment is from the body, we are just stuck. And then eventually it breaks. And you're talking about breaking in your book, right? There's a moment of break, and it could be a breakdown. It might be a burnout. It might be a crisis, like a confidence crisis. People come to me all the time. It happens a lot, right? They've got everything on paper. They've got the career, they've got the family, they've got the home. They've ticked all the boxes, but they feel at any moment it could go, right?
Absolutely.
And yeah, it's been this beautiful kind of awakening. I literally feel like I'm just at the start of it, like I'm putting some stuff out there. I've got some big ideas. I've got this big program I've created, and, but where it's going to go, I really don't know.
Yeah.
But the essence of it is really about, at a deep level, it's about giving women a space to reclaim at a deep level their power and remember it. That's what I think the really deeper meaning of Carnival, where it comes in. It's not just an immersive experience. It's a way that we remember, and we source power that's greater than us.
So when you actually take groups of women, I'm assuming only women, or do you take men? Do men or people who identify as women come, or it's just
Yeah, so complete confidence is in, because there's two sort of pieces to this. There's the Brazilian business, which is called Experience Carnival, and that's for anybody. So we've had, a group of gentlemen in their 70s come, 5 of them.
Wow. Oldest
was 78, and he got up 2 sets of ladders right to the top of a float.
And Samba in the parade.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Wow. And gay men and anybody, really. Anybody, yeah. So that's Experience Carnival, but complete confidence, the body of work, the movement I've created, that's for women. Whether it'll stay just for women, I don't know, but at the moment, it's for women.
It's a great place to start. Place to start, and it's your truth and where you need to start.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah. What happens when you take people and put them in places that are probably, I imagine, very uncomfortable for them to, talk about confronting confidence, putting somebody in a costume that highlights your body on a float in front of 90,000 people and telling them to get up there and shake it. That feels pretty vulnerable, pretty exposed.
Yeah.
And awesome also at the same time. But what's the journey you take people on to get to that place? Because I imagine there's some who are really keen to do it and who are like, just like you, they just dreamt about doing it and ready to go. And they're just like, come on, just teach me. What do I need to do? And I imagine there's probably some reluctant but hopeful people who want to do it. And who are just, I'm going to do this, but it's like, I'm scared to death, at the same time.
Yeah. Well, I think there's all going back to kind of the conversation we were having about somebody seeing something in you and being that steward of grace. There's usually somebody with them that's brought them there. Like for the people who literally don't have a clue what's going on. But because they'll have come with somebody, the leader of that group, and they might not know really what's going to go down, because people have an idea about maybe what it's like from seeing it on YouTube or, whatever. But when you're there, it's a different thing because of the frequency, which is partly because of the sound.
Right.
And you never get that through a visual, through the internet, do you? You never really get sound.
No, not that. I'm sure it's sound that you can feel through your body, in your organs.
Exactly. So it's it lands cellularly.
Yeah.
So you don't get that. And then this scale of it. So we get American clients come in and their closest reference is Mardi Gras.
Right.
And they'll be like, what the hell is going on?
This is way bigger than Mardi Gras.
Yeah, you don't.
Way more intense.
Yeah, exactly. And so you'll have somebody that's led them there. But if I could just tell a quick story, because this
of course,
this would summarize it so beautifully. So we had this couple come this year, so in 25, and I don't know, maybe they were in their late 50s, early 60s. And they were quite eclectic kind of couple from New Mexico. And we met them online because we always brief our clients. Like part of this privilege to do this is that you need to know about your Samba school and you need to know the history. And you also need to learn the song. Like it's a judge competition. We're not expecting you to be perfect Portuguese, but you can't stand on the float and have your mouth shut. You've got to sing, even if
sing along. Yeah.
If you're lip syncing, right? So we meet them. They're absolutely hilarious. The guy, the husband, he's 6'5". He's this like hilarious kind of character. He had his fits of hysterics, very self-deprecating, you know, oh God, girls, you know, I don't know. Like, we were like, no, of course you can do it. You know, it's just, you know, but he was like, he had these huge feet because he's like 6'5", and we got his shoe size through. We were like, that doesn't even exist in Brazil. You have to do your own shoes and stuff like that. Anyway, so he got to Brazil. We do this preparation class with a Samba queen, you know, like one of these leading ladies. And it's not about how you dance. You don't have to have any dance ability. It's about just getting you into your body, getting you into that energy and that confidence to interact with the crowd and to kind of be present and to feel it and to move with it and all of those things. And it's brilliant. They love it. And he loved this lesson. And then we took him down because then we organised his costume reveal. So we've got all the costumes on mannequins and we open the door and there's this moment where you see a costume for the first time. It's you know. But it was the only costume reveal I've done where I opened the door and I was like, oh.
Oh, no.
And it was pure fear. And he was like such a great sport, you know, no ego really, you know, not operating from ego base, but his wife was like crying, laughing at you, saying, can't do it. And then I found him outside on the stairs and I was like, are you all right? Are you like mortified? And he was like, I'm just scared, Helen. I'm like so scared. And he was really vulnerable. He said, you know, I've never shown my body. Even when I was a kid, I wouldn't even wear cycling shorts. Like I get into the sea and I've got like a mankini on. Like he's got a full like t-shirt.
Wearing the full rash guard and
guard and everything. Mm-hmm. And he was going to be like a male butterfly with this beads and this big jewelry thing coming down, this skirt with feathers on it. And so we were like, listen, he said, listen, I've spoken to the guy in your team. He's an absolute angel. He's going to fill in for me. Look, I don't want to embarrass anybody. I don't want to embarrass the school. I don't want, you know, I was like, oh my God, let's just work something out. And so we called the Samba school and they said, listen, he can put the shirt, the swimsuit under the thing, which would happen to be the same color. So we were like, great, like blah, blah, blah. And I was like, listen, come here, let me have a word. I said, what's your drink of choice, shall we say? What do you like to wet your whistle with? And he was like, I like a beer. I said, I'm going to get you a few beers before you go on. Now, we never let our clients get pissed or drunk. He said, listen,
just loosen him up a bit.
Yeah. So he said, if you can get me a pass through my wife to drink, I'm going to love you forever. I said, leave it with me. So I'm like wetting his whistle like it's a day of, you know, we're putting on the makeup. We have all the glam squads and glam tables and we prepare all our clients. They've got their names on the back of the dressing gowns. And it's all this is amazing like touches we do. And he was great. He was fine. He was loving it. He was going, I'm having the best night. You people, the energy. He was riffing. He was riffing off it all. And then we get him onto the flow. He's hilarious. This guy's, because he's 6'5". He's, you know, people aren't that big in Brazil. And he's like, Helen, am I black? And these sweet children behind me? Because we get him up there. And we're like, no, it's fine. And then the summer school, let's get him to the back because he was actually blocking people because of his height. And then they come round, the creative directors, because they've got to check everyone's in position. Is everybody got the costumes right? Because it's a serious competition. You know, it's not just a fun thing for these people. Yeah. And so they get to him and they're like, he's going to have to take the shirt off. This is all in Portuguese. We were like, we better get our guy in our team ready to strip and get on there. And it was this moment, again, of absolute divine grace, where something inside of him was like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And I think it was being held in this community, in this frequency of total unity. And it's not then about you. And so he whipped his shirt off. The hot, like 200-300 people are clapping, cheering him. Like this is in the holding area before you actually get onto the Avenida, which is 90,000 people in the stands. The creative director, they're all going like this and blowing him hearts. And then he sets off, and we have never ever seen a reaction like that to anybody going down. and having that experience, he went for it. He was hip thrusting, he was gyrating, he was blowing everyone kisses.
Wow.
And the audience were just, first of all, it was like shocked, what's going on? And they were, because Brazilian people, they're just so emotional.
Yeah.
And they just loved, it was like a total thing. The directors of Samba schools were like, yeah! And it's going crazy. And I was like, this is, if you've got OCD and you get somebody who's got a thing with germs to lick a toilet, this guy has got serious body confidence issues. To the point he's never shown his body his entire life, 60 years. And now he's ripped off and gone down there in front of 90,000 people. And that was the magic of it. And he sent us an email after it, and it's probably the best testimonial I'll ever get in my life, because it shifted him, and he'll always have it. He'll never always have that. That's the same.
I can't help but think how appropriate his costume was, being a butterfly. Because it was truly, it sounds like a metamorphosis, that he started off as, this shy caterpillar and ended up as this big beaming ray of light, dancing and letting his inner freak flag fly. He was just out there having a lot of fun and being very in the moment.
It was unbelievable, and it was beautiful. We were all crying. It was just like,
I bet. Yeah.
It was something, and just like he said, to have the honor really of being able to have that opportunity and to be held in real culture and community, that you should just drop anything that you are holding from something else. So it really was that.
That's amazing. What a cool way to spend time with people, to make money, to do your work, to walk your path. I love it. Complete confidence. Is it different than the Rio experience? Does it combine the two? What's different about what you're doing now?
So it brings it in, basically. So what I've built really here is, I'm calling it this kind of reclamation. It's a love letter from my heart to any woman who's ready to remember and reclaim her confidence through the feminine way. And so it sets this kind of journey off, because through working with people, through 2,000 plus clinical hours in my one-on-one work and lots of other things, the corporate job, looking at the Rio business, I've kind of discovered this, this method that brings the pieces that I think are required, like to be able to then have this into this moment in Rio, which comes in for this cellular transformation, and they're as follows. So it's about unmasking, and that is really because we're all, a lot of us, not all of us, but we're putting up these masks to hide the real truth. And so I go through the portal of the body to all of this. I'm doing a lot of work with the subconscious around truth and around connection, but we start with the body and we start with breath, basically. So when people come in and work with me, whether it's one-on-one or they come into a group program, we set the tone by going into our bodies through breath, and then we use the visualization of like, where do I want to be in 6 months' time in my life? What's that future version of myself like? And really root that in through the subconscious mind. And then so we unmask and we get to the truth. And this is quite the vulnerable part of it, really, because, like the things that we're saying, I've got to be a real truth slayer with clients here at this point, because is it real? Is it that?
Right.
What are you really trying to say here? And with compassion, but no, I want to get to the truth, because it's there. And once you say it, it frees you. So bringing people back to that truth. And then the second pillar is about emergence. And here, we're really going to emerge into our becoming, this metamorphosis, right? Through claiming like what we really want, what our desires are, using the body again as this lever for change and for embodiment and for grounding and for regulation and for really just harnessing our emotions in that process. And emotional mastery is really important, because a lot of when you've been masking, you've been suppressing a lot.
Absolutely.
And you've been repressing. So that emergence is about the alchemization. Once I've brought my mask down and I'm really connected to my truth, how the hell do I step into it? And how do I use my body as the lever to emerge into that? And then the third pillar being rain. And this is divine feminine archetype of queen energy, which is I am the leader in my life from the divine feminine. I'm sovereign. I'm connected all the way from the root to the crown. And then I go to Rio and I have a ceremonial rite of passage, because I put the headpiece on and I crown myself metaphorically and in reality as the queen of my life. So that's really about going, boom, I'm here.
Wow.
And then we integrate it. So that's the fourth pillar, which is really important, because once we go out there and we go, whoa, I'm here, then obviously your previous life will fight hard, will fight for its life to bring you the fuck back. Yeah. You've got to really go, no.
Going back. The mask is not going back on. Yeah.
And that's where really the coaching and the divine masculine steps into the program, because we're always playing with these things, both of them. But because we've already got sort of the visualization at the start of where we want to be, might change and shift, but no, let's take the step. Let's go. Let's take the step. Let's keep in the energy. Let's keep in the body. Let's keep going. And so, yeah, that's complete confidence.
Wow. I think it's amazing. I can't wait to see where you go with it. I can't wait to see where it evolves and how it evolves. And yeah, you definitely are someone who's chosen the steeper path to your greater goals, which I really am fascinated by, admire in you. It's just, thank you so much for sharing the stories. What do you think happens from here? Any ideas, any visions, any bigger wishes or aspirations on your path?
And I just want to say thank you to you and congratulations on the release of your book this week. I know my copy's coming from America to the UK.
It's on its way.
I can't wait to read it. It's been a real medicine for me. I've been struggling with some stuff with my health in the last few days. So to speak to you in this conversation has been pure medicine. So thank you for giving me the opportunity, really, and listening so eloquently to me and asking all of those beautiful questions. It's a real privilege. And I don't know where this work's going to take me, but I really feel in my bones that it's going to come back to young people at some point. And I'm going to do a return to working in that space. And I don't know what that looks like, whether it's books, whether it's the complete confidence thing for young people. But I really feel that is something. And then the other thing that's rising up in me is just about a woman at, my time in life and sticking with this path, which is really hard. Like at times, let's face facts. There's no certainty. The financial stuff can be like wild. And, me holding this and living in complete confidence, which is sometimes, in the dance analogy, it's a bold samba. And some days it's just a gentle sway or a rock, and holding myself in that frequency. And I hope I can inspire other women to start things later in life. And when I created Complete Confidence, I created the business as a .co. And I did it. I don't know why I did it. I do know why I did it. I'm lying.
There has to be a reason. Yeah.
I created completeconfidence.co, the website's .co, because I feel like there's this element, because I love business. I love being able to articulate my artistry through the lens of business. And there's something around galvanizing women through this element of being in complete confidence and embodying it and living it, that you then go and do companies that make the world better.
I love it.
Who knows?
We need more women building things in this world and driving and leading and helping the world reach its potential. I think it's amazing. Women have such unbelievable power, and I think that's why people try to push them down. So the work you're doing to free some of that power, free some of that potential, it's just, coming from the perspective of a man, it's just a wonderful gift. I think it's just a wonderful thing that you're doing for others and for humanity.
Thank
and
you.
I hope you keep doing it. Confidence is so critical to reaching our potential.
It is.
And so unleashing it is just beautiful. Thank you so much for doing the work you're doing. And I'm just so glad we got to have this chat and talk about it some more. And, have to have you back on because I've got a million more questions. I could talk for hours.
Well, I loved it, and just wishing you all the best with absolutely everything. It's such an incredible achievement to be able to write a book and have that legacy, and to everybody who picks it up, it will move them. I've got your back, you've got mine. We all stick together like birds of a feather.
No, I really appreciate it, Helen.
The steeper path, the climb I choose, leaving comfort, nothing to lose. Through shadow trails and rocky ground, my purpose clear, my meaning found. Each step I take brings strength anew. Challenges faced, resilience grew. A journey tough, but richly sweet, where soul and life's alignment meet. At peaks ahead, the vision clear, my greatest goals becoming near. The steeper path, though hard and slow, is where my truest self